It's the Morning Star Drive on 107.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another week's Tuesday segment of the MSD on 117.8. It's already May 6th, and I hope everyone is, starting off their week together with the Lord. Yeah, it's good to be back, and it's good to be with you all. It's been a while, and I think it's been like 3 weeks since I last recorded, right? And I think from the past, like I've always told you guys, right, like that if it's possible to record, I always record, right? Like I don't think that there's been a time in the last 3 years where I like didn't record because it was inconvenient. Like the only times where I didn't record is like when I literally didn't have a place where I could, set time away, right? Where there wouldn't be like background noise and like there was just too many things going on. And over the last few weeks, like there was zero time to record. And of course I guess I could always do it like throughout the week and spread it out and do different things and make it creative and such. But I don't know for you guys if you guys know my process, and I think it's kind of evident from even from listening on the Tuesdays, but I do everything in like one take. And I've actually been thinking about that recently because there's like strengths and drawbacks to this process for sure. Like one thing that I enjoy about doing it like this is that everything is very raw, right? And like so you kind of like get the first take for everything. But like I think as I've been speaking to more people, and even when I like listen to people like Rachel and other people do things, especially women, like there's a lot more preparation going on involved, right? And I've learned from my life that preparation is key, right? And like getting things in order and like creating a draft or like knowing what to say ahead of time is very important. And so I'm trying to balance things, and so I hope that going forward that I can give you guys a much more polished product where like of course you get the sense of there's like excitement and new things, but also structure, right? Because I think there's two kinds of people, and there's also two kinds of feelings that you may be going through. And on any given day you may be like somewhere in between, right? Where sometimes you want to watch a movie, right? You're going in for a story and you don't know what's going to happen and you're there for the ride. So sometimes you're in that kind of mood where you're fine with wherever the story takes you. And like I think like in the time that we spend together on Tuesdays, there's like moments where you can laugh and you're like, haha, right? Like that's so very honest. And then there's other times where you want structure and you want to be led and you want to know and have guidance for where you're going, right? So you either want adventure or you want like I don't know, like a lecture, like I don't know, like a studying, like class. I don't know what better way to describe it, right? So you want one of those two things, and honestly, I think the best thing is like to have both, right? To have some sort of structure and guidance to know what you're getting yourself into. Otherwise, like if you don't, then sometimes it feels like the journey is going like all over the place, and you're not sure like where things are. And so I've been thinking about that, and I definitely want to do that for everyone. And yeah, and I hope that the MSD and whatever subsequent thing happens is something that we can keep doing for a very long time. I'm very grateful to Rachel and for Pastor Sky and for everyone else who's been on the MSD, and for our beloved listeners too, especially for the last few weeks where like I've been getting my ducks in order. That there was someone to take over. And I like remember it's funny, like I was listening to Rachel's segment over the last couple weeks, and yeah, like I remember when I first asked her, right? Because actually there were like I've always wanted second generation to be more involved, like not just in the MSD but just in Providence, right? And to be able to share their stories and to kind of like have this experience and all of those kinds of things. And so yeah, like even from the beginning, Rachel was someone I was really hoping would do this, and also other second generation too. And I'll be honest, I really wanted a guy to do it. Like not to say like in place of Rachel, but I wanted more guys to do it. But to date, and generally speaking, guys are bums, right? So it's really hard to like entrust certain things to guys, and like even for myself, like I remember when I was first starting out with the 2G Talk segment, like once a week, like there'd be many weeks that not many weeks, but there'd be quite a few weeks where I would forget, right? Or it would slip my memory until it was either like really late at night, or like Pastor Sky had to gently remind us and stuff like that. So there was like a number of those kind of moments. And so far we haven't had that with Rachel, right? She's always on top of things. And so like when you are in need, you really depend on people like that, right? And I know the same thing is true for God, the same thing is true for the Lord, and they want people who are very dependable in these kind of moments. And like the people who, like, even to this day, right, the Lord uses for His work are the people who are consistent and are able to do the work that he wants us to do. So I'm very grateful, right? I know Rachel was joking over the last few weeks about being glad to have her solo show, but at the same time, right, like I know for her it requires like advanced preparation and getting it done in advance too. So I'm very grateful that she stepped up to cover like during these times. And so with that, I think I will go straight into things with like the first major kind of like, this isn't really an update, but I guess it's a realization that I've been having. And it's also sort of in part a confession, right? Like it's been 3 weeks, right? So there's definitely a lot of content. And to give you guys some structure as to what this is, it's going to be about evangelism, right? And it's something that I really felt over the last few days. And I'm trying to do it like not just in my on my own regard. Like actually yesterday, someone called me, right? And while talking to them, I realized like, oh, actually, I really wanted to evangelize like together with this person and working together, right? And I will say, I think that that's been one of the challenges, like in American Providence, like this aspect about evangelizing together. And it's like a lot of moving parts, right? And so like basically what I really felt, and this is kind of like the starting premise, is that I haven't really done much for evangelism this year. And it's kind of funny because I think people's reaction to what it looks like from the outside third party with respect to evangelism for me this year is been like, wow, like even in law school, like Eddie's trying to like evangelize lives, and like other people would just focus on school and this kind of thing, and prioritize that. Yeah, and I'm grateful that people look at it very positively, right? And I think that is definitely something that I should note too, and I should be very grateful for. Um, but actually, like the bigger feeling that I felt, generally speaking, over this last year, and especially within the last few days, is that I have no excuse. And I've been, yeah, of course, I've been trying to connect lives and this and that, but I know myself, and I know that I haven't been completely honest. I know that I haven't really made evangelism my huge focus. It's not to say that I haven't been, but I think the thing that I'm feeling is that I know that I could have done more. Right. And I think I especially feel this because at the time of this recording, and for you guys as you're listening to this, I will have taken my last final for this school year. And this school year is like, it's flown by. And I can for sure say that it's been the busiest time academically in my life. But academics and career and the world, like the events and everything in that, outside in the world, they'll happen all the time, like regardless, right? And so we know that it's not just because we're busy that we can't evangelize or anything like that. And actually, it's not that I'm like working like 24/7 like for school or for anything else for that matter. And I really felt that like if I used my time well, I could have done more than I did in terms of evangelism. And I think like the thing that I really felt while praying over the last few days is like, oh, like that I need to have that heart of evangelism. Like I think one thing I noticed with respect to my prayers over this last year is that I stopped making promises to God. And I don't know how you guys are in your prayers, right? But I feel like in the past, I used to make a lot of promises. And I don't know how many of them I really kept. Right. And then, yeah, even in the Bible, and, something it's told us many times, like, you have to keep your promises before God. Right. And it says, like, even in the Bible, it says, do not, like, swear on anything, just say yes or no. Right. And I think it goes for a number of reasons, right? Like it's like one, the biggest thing, the thing that something that always says, like, yeah, if you made a promise before God, you have to keep it, right? You have to keep your promises even to people. And so how much more your promises to God, right? So that's the first thing. And I feel like if we're all listening to this right now, like all of us have made promises to God that we've broken, right? And I think like people in Providence, we've grown cautious of making promises to God because we know how challenging things can be, right? We know like our weaknesses and we know like our shortcomings. So like oftentimes, like of course, there's probably many promises that we did keep, and then others that like we definitely should have kept, but we didn't. And so I think because of that, I've been really hesitant to make promises. But then like when you do make promises, there's something else that you do gain, and it's like that firmness to take action on that promise, right? And of course, like you can make a promise and not be firm about it still, but like oftentimes when you like set a goal, right? Like you can call it a goal, you can call it a promise, something that you really hope to fulfill. Like when you have that, you're driven towards it and you do it, right? And like and yeah, there's kind of like two different ways to look at it. Like even with respect to something like exercise, right? Like let's say you have it in your mind, like generally to be healthy, right? You're like, okay, I'm generally gonna eat well. I'm generally gonna exercise. I'm generally gonna sleep on time. I'm generally gonna spend less time on my phone. I'm generally gonna go out and get fresh air. I'm gonna drink plenty of water, like those kinds of things. And yeah, generally speaking, you may be okay in that regard, right? But at other times, you like set a goal and you're like, okay, for 100 days, I'm gonna run like 5K every day. For this period, I'm gonna diet intensely, or for this period, I'm gonna go to the gym every day. Something of that nature, right? And sometimes, like when you do that, like you may not live up to that promise. You might not do it for the 100 days. You might not even do it for 30 days. You might not even do it for a week, right? But like when you have that 결심, right? When you have that like uh that that kind of this conviction that you're gonna do it, you kind of put in a different kind of effort, right? On the line. Right. So sometimes promises are important. Sometimes like making a pledge is important. And of course we still have to be like you can't promise to fail, right? Like yeah, you can't like make the thing and then not do what you said you would. But sorry, that's kind of a very long-winded way of saying that I really felt that I could evangelize. Right? I know my situation the best, and like being here, I feel like there's actually quite a few lives who I really could have evangelized. And some of them are connected and some of them want to learn over the summer. But I feel like if I had made a more proactive effort, that those learners could have learned more proactively to date. And some of them may even have been able to pass. Now, I can't say with finality that that's the case, but all I can say is that I felt that I needed to do it more, and that it was actually a huge blessing that God gave these lives into my hands, right? Like in the world and in other periods of your life, you have to go out and look for lives, right? Like when you're not at school or at work or at blank or blank, right? When you don't have a family member who you are trying to evangelize, then you have to go to the streets and you have to go to the college campuses, even if you're not a college student. You have to go to like other people and in public spaces and approach them to learn the word. And of course, now we also have to evangelize through the internet, which is it's a whole different game too, right? But yeah, like but here, in law school, I feel like God has presented lives, right? And I could tell, right? And not just that, it's not just the lives that he presents, but I know that he's given me experiences to date to evangelize, right? It wasn't just to fulfill my own will or fulfill my own purposes. It wasn't just to become a lawyer. It wasn't just to have this first year of law school go well according to my academics or personal goals or anything like that. It was to use it for God's will to evangelize. And so I think I was like really repenting about that this week. And so that's kind of like the first major thing, right? And so I'm sure people have different feelings, and I think I'll close this evangelism topic with a couple of notes, and I think people know this too, and also to be fair, I think I'm sure that my thoughts on this are quite lacking, and that there are like more than one way to look about it. And in God's perspective, right, it looks from above and sees everything. But a couple notes from this. Right, recently, I think for us here in American Providence, right, especially after Cecily gave that message saying, "Oh yeah, America, Europe, you have to do better in terms of evangelism," right? I'm sure people had many different kinds of thoughts like, "Oh yes, we do," and then what should we do, right? So even like our headquarters, they sent out an announcement about, oh yeah, like what are some tips, what are some ideas, what are some suggestions, what are some thoughts that you've had about evangelism. And that's great, like we need that effort too. But even as I was like filling out that survey with some ideas that came up in the moment, I didn't really feel great about it. And I think the thing that was bugging me about my response and about my actions, about my heart related to this was like, um, yeah, the method and the planning and that portion is really important, but is my heart really in the right place? Because it's kind of like what we were just talking about in terms of like goal setting versus like just generally aiming to do well. And I feel like on average, we've generally been trying to do well across the board with like our life of faith right here in American Providence. And I'm very much generalizing, right? I know some people are still very proactive about ministry and stuff, but before when big ministry efforts did happen, it was because we had more of that mentality behind goal setting. Of course, it wasn't just goals, but it was just that heart, that conviction behind, yes, let's do it. Let's evangelize, tons of people. Let's go out and like, put our lives on the line and do that kind of work. Right? Like, and that's when like the big push for evangelism happened. Right? And of course there were problems like, at each time and different things that we can fix, but now we have that experience too. Right, so the evangelism, the in terms of the ideas, in terms of like this and that, like that's very important, right? And that's actually an aspect that I realized while talking to the person who called me on Sunday, right? Like I was like, oh yeah, like I should collaborate with people, because just because I have this heart to evangelize doesn't mean that I can do it all on my own. And it doesn't mean that I should do it all on my own, right? Because we're not doing this for our own purposes, like to check off a box for how many people we've evangelized or anything like that. But as the Lord has said this week, these are people who were consigned to the fiery pits of hell. And these are people who are in that swamp hell where, like you're desperately trying to claw up, and maybe you catch a breath and you sink back down again, and you're like you're stuck in that mud. And we were like that too, right? So it's not a numbers game, and it's not about winning a game or anything like that, but it's people's lives, right? And we too, we were in that situation, but the Lord reached out his hand and he pulled us out and he saved us. And so knowing that, like being thankful of that, like we too have to be people who reach in next and grab and pull out the next person, right? Because it wasn't for any good thing of our own that we were born in Providence, or that we came to Providence, or that we met someone in Providence, right? It wasn't like we didn't orchestrate that. Like it wasn't through our efforts. Like we didn't sow that seed, grow that plant, and reap that fruit. No, like we just received it, right? And and I'm sure none of this is new, which is why I think this is more of a note. And yeah, and I hope that this doesn't weigh heavily on anyone. Like that's not the intention at all. But I think like the thing that I feel, and I may be wrong, right? And you're like, you may be feeling like this doesn't describe you at all. But the thing that I feel is that generally we've been trying to do well, right? No one tries to do poorly, but we haven't made up that firm mentality as of late to be like, let's evangelize, right? It's just generally been well. And I'll go through this, and I think I'll share this last part, right? This is not really a note, but I guess in terms of giving structure to, in terms of this topic about evangelism and about the Bible today, before we head into the break, I think I was reading through the Bible, and I've been reading through Leviticus And so I just finished Leviticus, and I'll be honest, right? Like, I'm definitely going through a lot, like, in this period. And so reading Leviticus and hearing the word, I just feel convicted all over. You just feel like, knives like driving into your chest, and like, oh God, yes, like I know I have to do this and I have to do that. And it feels like, I'm not capable. So I've definitely been going through the ringer in terms of these things, right? So at first I like read Leviticus 25, and then and that part's talking about how, like, if you live up to God's promises, like, he will bless you and he will guide you and he will do things for you, and all of that. And then Leviticus 26 is like, but if you don't keep the Lord's commandments, then even your efforts will be in vain. And for me, that line hit really hard, because I'm like, God, like, am I engaging in a fruitless endeavor, right? In terms of my personal goals, in terms of other things, and in terms of things I want and stuff like that. And I've been reading both in Korean and in English. And so in Korean, for that line in Leviticus, right? Like, that line is like, it hit me really hard because in my cousin's house in Busan, like, my uncle has a signature from something where it says, "Your efforts will not be in vain," right? And it says it in Korean, right? And the Korean text for this scripture, it says, it uses the exact same words, but it says your efforts will be in vain, right, if you don't keep the Lord's commandments. So then when I was reading this, I was like, God, like, I recognize that I'm lacking in so many ways, and there's so many things I can't do. And there's things I think, like, at this time, like for the MSD, like, I don't know if I can really share. But I was like, man, like, I don't know if I can really do this. And then so I was like, God, like, I don't really know. And then, like, when the when the Sunday message scripture came up, saying, like, from like Matthew, right? With Jesus, even Jesus saying, like, God, if it's possible, take this cup away from me. And like, but like, not as I will, as you will, right? And so I think, like, when I first saw that scripture preview, I was like, God, like, no, like, because I felt like there were some things that maybe God was telling me to do. And then I was like, man, I don't know if I could do that. And so I've been kind of struggling with something lately. But, like, as I was reading it, I'm like, maybe I'm also thinking about things, like, according to my own perspective. And so this week's message was really helpful to try to get rid of my likes and dislikes and ask God, okay, God, like, what is your will with respect to this? So I've been searching and I've been praying, but one of the things that came up from that was evangelism. Like, whether or not, like, God wants me to do X and Y in terms of other things, evangelism, I think, is the one thing that we don't need a revelation to check. Of course, we need a revelation to check, maybe in terms of, like, who, how, like, where, what, like, what we should do in terms of evangelism, but evangelism itself. And so I hope that's put into our brains from everything. And so this part, I really felt that I could open up and share. And so, yeah, with respect to, even with Leviticus, the last chapter, it talks about those whom the Lord redeems, right? And so, oh yeah, and I think I can even share this too. Um, yeah, so it talks about who the Lord redeems. And it says, like, when you, like, go to get something redeemed from the Lord, like, add a fifth of the value, right, to it and do it. Right. And so one of the things when it came to evangelism, I was like, okay, it's been a while since I, like, set a goal to be like, okay, God, I'm gonna try to evangelize this many people this year, or anything like that, or this month, or this day, stuff like that. And I was like, God, like, if I add a fifth of the value of how many people I should evangelize, would that suffice to come before you and to make up for my failures and for my lacking nature? So that's kind of what I was thinking of in terms of evangelism. And so I hope that, people feel that same heart to evangelize. And because I think the thing that everyone also knows, and this will really be the last note for evangelism, but the thing that everyone knows, even about themselves, is that they're very capable of evangelizing. You are capable of evangelizing because you have the stories with God, with something. You have learned in Providence until now. You know what it means to be a bride of this history. So we know what to do, right? We know that it's not for failure of the Lord of teaching us. We know that it's not because we're missing something that we can't evangelize. No, we know we can do it. Right. So with that, let's go into our first break for today, and also to provide structure again. It's going to be a Bible Today segment, and with that, I'm thinking about adding a new segment, but I'll get to that after the break.
People's hearts to burn up like blood and flow away. When your heart's left alone, it goes to waste, thoughts end in vain. Your heart flows away. Now grab your heart and control your deeds. Lead them on to love, lead them to the Lord, pressing on.
Awesome. So hope you guys enjoyed that break. So I'm actually reusing the song that I think I used like 3 weeks. I had a question from someone, like I think who listened to this like a while ago, and they said like they recognized the sound of the song, but they couldn't figure out what song it was. So the song is called "Grab a Hold of Your Heart." I think that's what it is. Yeah, grab hold of the heart. Right, that's what it is. Yeah, so I hope for the person who asked, that they'll be able to figure out what that song is from that. But yeah, so going into our final segment for me for Bible Today and for this early segment, I think this kind of goes to the topic of evangelism that we just talked about. But it was like something that I hope to kind of give structure to this. So there's like something to look forward to for you guys who really want to, or who really crave structure, who want to know like step by step A, step B, step C, and and can dictate and determine what step Z might be, what the conclusion might be from the beginning. And so basically, basic premise of this segment, it will be called "Preach to the Trees," right? I hope that name kind of like rolls off the tongue. "Preach to the Trees," and like the whole idea of it is like, to preach to members within Providence, right, and to share parts of the word, right. And I know that doesn't sound any different from Bible today, but I think it's going to be a little bit more focused, like rather than sharing some very general principle or reflections or anything. It might be practicing delivering the word. And there's kind of like like some thought processes to this. I think one of the big things is like, even for something, right? Like before he went out to preach to the world and to teach people, when he was like nervous and when he didn't have that capacity to really lecture to people yet, right? He said he was in Warmington in the mountains and he would preach to the trees. He would practice even with no one there. Right. And so for us too, like, we can do the same thing, right? Like for whatever reason, for like why we haven't been able to evangelize or lecture or manage or preach or testify or whatever it is, right? Like within Providence, we can preach to the trees. And the other thing to do with that is like we don't have to go in the mountains and do that exactly, but we know that each of us are the trees, right, in Warmington. Like we are the rocks, the trees in Warmington, right? Each of us as the members. And so preaching to each other, like sharing the word with each other, that's preaching to the trees. And that's preaching to each other. And so I really hope that to make this happen. And I think the thing I wanted to open up about this is that when we preach to the trees, like one aspect of this, of sharing the word in this way, of practice, of actual practice of delivering the word or sharing at least an element of a lesson. Like let's say like you've been practicing teaching the time times and half a times lecture, or you've been practicing how to teach three divisions, or memorizing the scriptures, or like finding ways, connections to connect it to the newcomer, or of learning how to anticipate newcomers' questions, or like preparing spiritually for evangelism. There's all of these things that make our lecturing, our evangelism, our managing more ideal, right? And actually that's such a great thing, right? So there's so many things that we can improve on. And so in this idea of practicing, of preaching to the trees, we can really make something better. And so I'm actually leaving myself open too. And so like if there's something that you really want to work on in that sense and you haven't been able to do it, but you feel like you want to improve on it, right? You haven't been taking your practice shots, like with soccer or with basketball, you haven't been taking your practice shots. And so when the moment comes when you actually have to do it, you're not sure, right? Because you haven't been taking those practice shots. And so, I want to be a person who you can practice your shots on. And so if you feel like you want to run through a lesson or run through a particular thing, or just like have a soundboard off of which you can practice, then please let me know. I think that'd be really entertaining and fun too. And the other part about this idea of preaching to the trees, of engaging in this kind of activity where and the form can take, it can take multiple different forms, right? Like you can like we can be on a phone call, we can be on a Zoom call, or you can just send your outline, right? We can go over things and you can ask questions, and we can ask each other questions. You can tell me to pretend to be a newcomer, or we can even teach one another, or we can actually teach actual people within Providence too, right? Whether it's second gen or SS or whoever or other lives, we can actually teach people too. But through this kind of process, whatever the form might be, one thing that this does for us is it helps us to think about evangelism all the time in a different way. And this will be kind of the last part for today, right? For preach to the trees. But the part that comes into mind with that is like, actually, when you like determine your mind to evangelize, you realize that there's so many different things that you can do. And at times that can be an overwhelming thing, but at other times it's a very hopeful thing, because you realize you can apply yourself in so many different ways. And right, sometimes you have to do street evangelism and go out and do that. And when you feel like you can't do that, another thing you can do is online ministry, right? You can make YouTube videos, and I don't want to constrain people's internet ministry ideas. You can write blog posts, you can write this, that, you can record things, you can do editing on a video, and stuff like that. So you can do online ministry, right? You can make a website, you can make a portal, you can make a link, and you can make better things too, right? Like, and you can create images and things, and plan things, and draft things, right? Or you can help someone else with that too, right? And then, like, and at times when you when God gives you a life, through like your connections, right, through work or at school or in your family, you can focus on actually teaching those people too. And then if you meet people, through street evangelism or online or in person, you'll have an actual life to teach, right? So there's all of these different things you can do, right? Sometimes, right, like you'll go out and you'll proactively, like you'll set the time to go to the nearby school or grocery store or mall or wherever to find a life. And at other times you'll be like, okay, I don't have the time and the opportunity right now to do that, but I can at least put my best foot forward to do internet ministry and to make something and to sit down and spend, whether it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, or a couple hours or whatever, to do something on internet ministry, or to practice my lecturing, right? To go over something. I don't know, even make flashcards, right? Like flashcards are so popular in schools, right? In medical school, in law school, right? Or make an outline of a lecture, go over it, see my weaknesses, see what I don't understand, or learn the word, or preach or read the Bible. There's all of these different things. And so I hope that Preach to the Trees can be one aspect for me that I can develop this capacity. And the other thing is I really want to open it up so that each of us will be going through this kind of process as well. Because if we're all doing it, it will work. If we're all engaging in internet ministry, like sometimes alone and other times together with other people, but if we're all doing it all together, it becomes this whole massive movement going in the same direction and following after the Lord's will. So that's kind of it for me today with Bible Today and with Preach to the Trees. And so I hope that these things will be with you, right, with this topic of evangelism. And I think this is the last thing with respect to Leviticus 27 and Isaiah 43, and this had to do with being redeemed. And I'm not saying that, if there's actually something that the Lord wants you to do, that evangelism solves all things. But it kind of does. It kind of does solve all things, right? And that's one thing that I really felt, right? Because one thing is said in Leviticus 27, because 25 and 26 were kind of brutal. Because 25 was saying, yeah, if you do well, yeah, you'll be accepted. And if you don't do well, you won't be accepted. And I think if you end at 26, it kind of like it sounds so hard to do. But one of the things it says towards the end of 26 and into 27 is it talks about how like Israel, would you not be redeemed? Actually, maybe this was in Isaiah. I can't remember which book this was in. But yeah, maybe it may have been in Isaiah. But when it was talking about redeeming, it said that, like, yeah, it's fine if you make mistakes and if you have this and that. But are you not going to do the thing that I asked you to do? Even if you haven't been perfect so far in terms of evangelism, in terms of this year, in terms of this and that, are you not going to do the thing that I want, right? And specifically at the time, it talked about sacrifices. Are you going to stop your sacrifices, right? Are you, like, on top of not doing what the right thing, on top of making mistakes, are you not even going to do what you promised? Are you not even going to do that the righteous deeds that you should be doing, right? So it's like, okay, yes, we may be lacking in this regard and that regard, and we may not have been taking care of our health. We may not have been like praying as much as we should. We may not have been doing this and that, but at least are you evangelizing, right? Because actually evangelism is the biggest thing, right? And something you said too, right? Like, even if God can't forgive you for what you did, if you evangelize, that evangelism makes up for a multitude of sins. Yeah, and so I hope that this message wasn't in any way pressuring anyone or making people feel overwhelmed to evangelize, but in fact that you'll be strengthened and hopeful. And to not do things alone, like, yeah, like seriously reach out, right? Like in whatever capacity, right? Like add me on on Telegram or something. I think that's where I'm the most responsive as of late. And I would love to walk through it, right? And not just once, not just twice, like continually, right? In whatever format that we can. But anyways, hope you guys had a great week. I will have hopefully some very exciting updates for you guys very soon, of which I can't share right now, but in the foreseeable future, I think I'll be able to share. But I love you guys. I'm so grateful to have had this opportunity with you all to wrap up this year for the school year, and I can't wait for the next step together with the Lord.
Sincerely I pray, please forgive all my sins. Please forgive me, please don't leave my side. Take me as your own. If alone I wander, death will carry me away. Anxiously, won't you, Lord, wash my sins away? Lord, if you make me clean, I'll live my life only for you, my Lord. I will give my life to you. I'll live by your word alone, loving you,
Welcome back, everyone, to our Tuesday segment. I'm back to having my 2G talks back again. I hope that y'all are all excited. For today's segment, I have just some quick updates. I also have some updates regarding our 2nd Gen Elevate Retreat Spirituality Bootcamp. And I have a very special guest who will also be speaking on today's 2G talks. Okay, yes, welcome back, everyone. So happy to have you here. Truly, before I get started, I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who listened to my solo segment last week on Tuesday, everyone that liked and everyone that commented. I really felt your love. I was a little nervous, but also at the same time, I was really excited to just share more about myself, but also to have those Sunsenim talks, which I think also helps myself to feel a lot closer to the Holy Trinity and Sunsenim. But I also hope for you all out there listening, and for those that will listen in the future, you can also feel closer to Sunsenim. So I will continue that segment. I have a lot of stories that I've been accumulating and will continue to accumulate, so please look forward to that. But for today, I have a lot, as always, to share with you guys. So I just wanted to get into it right away. Like I said, a couple of updates. Eddie is back. Yay. So happy to have him back. I had to kind of double check or test the waters with him. We have a group chat with Pastor Sky, and so I just tested and I asked to see, am I going to get another solo show this week? And well, according to how you feel, either fortunately or unfortunately, Eddie was like, no, I can do it, which I think is great. I'm so happy to have him and us working together as partners on this Tuesday segment. So yes, anyways, I hope you really liked Eddie's segment. I hope you liked my solo segment, and I'm happy to be back doing my 2G talks for this week. It's kind of nice. It's like having a mini break. I don't know how Pastor Sky does it practically every single day. It's really quite amazing. But like I mentioned, for today, my first mini topic was just updates regarding myself. So officially, I have only 18 more school days. Can you believe it? And then it's summer. But really for myself, it's more of a drastic change because it officially means that I'm going to be quitting my job officially, no longer getting any paychecks, and I'm going to be full-time Providence, which is really crazy to think about it. I haven't actually fully realized or really understood what that means, but I'm really excited. I'm very hopeful. I kind of want to give myself the opportunity and the time to write out what I think that this will mean for me, this new segment and chapter of my life where I'm running full-time Providence, because I've never done that before. I've never not had a job or not been in school while trying to do Providence history and stuff. So it's going to be very different, but I'm really hopeful and I'm super excited to document my experience with you all here. It's really not real to me still, like I keep saying. But honestly, I think my family, my parents, I know for a fact my mother ran full-time Providence, and I'm sure my dad did as well at one point. But I would love to hear if you are somebody that is listening and you have run full-time Providence, or even if you had a part-time job and then you ran full-time Providence, I would love to, in the comments, or even if you want to directly message me, that's perfectly fine. Feel free to leave below in the comments. I would love to get your advice on what are some of the steps that you did as you were running full-time Providence to ensure that you didn't get completely burnt out, or to ensure that you stayed on schedule and didn't become lazy, because that's one of my biggest fears. I think many people, when they come to meet me or get to know me, know I'm very type A. I'm very organized. I like lists. I am very kind of anal in those types of things, which is a good and a bad thing. of course. There's pros and cons to it. But I'm always someone who's always had a schedule that I had to follow. Usually self-imposed, yes, but primarily there was just always things that I had to do, either for school, work, Providence work, things like that I had to somehow balance because I had a schedule. Like tomorrow, I'm going back to work, so I have a schedule that I have to follow. So I'm getting all these things done that I have to so that I can keep the schedule. But being full-time Providence by myself, primarily, I do plan on going to campuses during the school year, running, I'm going to travel. So there's a lot of things that I'm, going to have schedules for, but there's a lot of time where I'm just going to be at home, kind of preparing, praying, doing those preparatory work. And so I would love advice on what y'all did, or if you did it, or even prayers for me would be great. I'm hoping to use this platform as a way so that I can hold myself accountable. I'm really curious and super interested in seeing how that the Holy Trinity and the Holy Spirit inspire me and help me to do that. So pretty much that's an update on me. School's almost over. Super tired of the kids. Kidding. I'm kidding. Not really, but I'm kidding. And I'm just super ready to run full-time Providence. A little hesitant, but I'm really excited and ready to see how the Holy Trinity use me and show their glory and amazing grace even through my weaknesses. So I'm super excited for that. Second segment, our mini segment for today, I wanted to share a little bit more about the second gen spirituality bootcamp that we're going to be having. We just had a meeting going over some of the responsibilities of the participants and things like that. And I know from the last retreat that we had, there was so many people that were so curious about how it went and what the experience was like. And I know Pastor Sky even interviewed some of the second gen that went to the winter retreat that we had, and that was super awesome. So I'm hoping to do the same thing for this one. But I wanted to give you all a little background regarding this retreat. So in our leadership group, there's 3 of us, myself, Minister Hyun, and Pastor Grace. And so we all work very diligently to prepare and plan for these different events and things. And it was primarily Minister Hyun who came up with this idea, or really she got it from Korea. So she was a second gen growing up in Korea, and they would always have, she said, these spirituality camps where it wasn't so much of a general retreat. Like our winter retreat was a really general retreat. So we had some spiritual aspects, but we primarily focused on the really fun, interactive games, team building, getting to know one another, those types of things. This retreat is going to be much smaller. We actually limited the number of participants that can go or that are allowed to go. They also have to set a condition. So we're really kind of raising the level in second gen that can go, and primarily focus on second gen who want to continuously raise their level even more, and that have that hunger and that drive and want to become leaders or be used in the future. So that's the type of retreat that we're looking at here. And Minister Hyun, like I said, she was the one that proposed this idea that we do it in America. I've never been actually to a spirituality boot camp before myself, so I'm actually really excited to go, not just as a staff member and helping the second gen, but actually as a participant, really myself. So we are going to be meeting soon to actually go in detail and discuss the program in general, but it's looking to be very exhausting. And I say that in a good way, because that's the type of condition that we need to set. The spirituality boot camp made me realize, because as I mentioned, the schedule is extensive and exhaustive. We're going to be going from pre-dawn pretty much all the way until late evening, either in a lecture or exercising or cleaning the church or interacting with members or Q&R. Like, we're going to constantly be doing some form of activity, interaction with one another, interaction with other members at the church that we're holding this retreat at. And so because of this schedule that we're having, thinking about it actually made me realize, oh my goodness, this is how Sansanam lives his daily life every single day. This is the level that he is constantly at, and yet he doesn't ever run out of energy. He doesn't ever lose strength. We also had our recent second gen re-education. We have it every week. In the lecture that was preaching, it was Purpose of Creation and the Fall in one lesson together. And she did an amazing job. I texted her right away and I was like, this is incredible. But one of the things that she talked about that really stood out to me that is related to this boot camp is that for us, whenever we run out of energy, whenever we lose strength, when we're at the lowest point, when we need more love from the Holy Trinity, whenever we just don't have anything left in the tank, that's when we start to lash out. That's when problems kind of arise. And that's when problems occur. And yet we're always told in the messages that you have to be perfect, right? Sometimes it says that. You have to be perfect. You have to do things better. And even in the Bible it says that. Jesus says in Matthew chapter 5, you have to be perfect, just like our Heavenly Father is perfect. And I've talked about this before, about that idea of perfection and how it can lead to there being anxiety within ourselves and each other in trying to reach this idea of perfection that seems unattainable. Because as much as we have to work hard to reach that perfection, we're going to run out of energy and steam and burn out, which is one of the things that I'm afraid of, right? I don't want to burn out while I'm trying to run full time for this history. But the thing that this lecturer mentioned was that, yes, it is about being perfect. But she explained it in a way that was an equation that is so simple, but I think has so much depth, and each person listening can really realize something else from it. So she wrote the word imperfect plus God's love equals perfection. And it was so moving to me because it was in a sense that, yes, we have our imperfections, but through our imperfections, God's beauty and his love can shine. Because Sansanam too, he went through those difficulties and he was at the lowest of lowest. He experienced the worst, right? Not in regards to sin. He never sinned in those ways, of course. But I mean, and he said it in the messages where he was with the homeless and the mentally ill and the poor. He experienced that hardship, that starvation. He also experienced being swindled. He experienced what it felt like to think he was truly ugly, where he broke the mirror. He experienced what it was like to think he was truly stupid and completely useless in this life. And so Sansam's experienced this wide range of emotions and seen his flaws and imperfections as being a human. But because of God's love that he completely accepted, letting go of his own thinking and accepted into his own vessel, that he was able to become perfect and is now the man of mission who's brought this new time period to us. And so it gave me strength. It really did. That knowing in a sense where I know I have flaws, I know what my flaws are, but that it's okay as long as I focus on God's love. And when I'm low on my tank of energy and wanting to do anything and wanting to be perfect, that I just need to go back to God's love. And there was something else that she said that I wanted to share where it was, you are strong when you know who you are, because we come from God, right? And we are strong even when we don't know who we are, because of God too. So that was really moving to me, and something that I realize that Sansanam does and has continuously done at such a high level, so that he can do, looping back to my primary topic before I did this tangent, how he is able to have such an extensive schedule like we're going to have for our spirituality boot camp. And Sansam's just so amazing like that. He can speak to people, he can preach for hours and then go counsel, and then he can, hand out snacks, hand out food, and then he can play sports for hours, and then he stays up until midnight and he's pruning and he's cleaning. He's making sure that even the line of the Holy Spirit pathway is super clean, and they clean it with, towels and all these little things that Sansam is constantly doing. You never see him run out of energy because he's always going back and reaching that and gaining that energy from God. So I hope that us too, we can also gain that energy please pray for me so I can gain that energy so that I can be a good staff member. For the 2nd January, we're going to be participating in this spirituality boot camp. And if you have any questions regarding that, I'd love to answer. Perhaps your questions can also kind of give us inspiration on what we should do in a spirituality boot camp. If you have experience at one, I'd love to hear it. Again, I've never been to a spirituality boot camp, so planning for one, I'm definitely lacking. I want to give the 2nd Gen the best opportunity and ability. If you're hoping to be a staff member after hearing all that, sorry, those positions are filled, but your advice would be greatly appreciated. I would really love to be able to hear it. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and go into my final segment. As I mentioned before, I actually have a special guest who is going to be sharing with us a testimony. Actually, it is Ina from New York, who I believe has already shared a testimony of hers on Pastor Sky's podcast last week. And I listened to it, and it was so great. It was so funny and wonderful. But she recently texted me. We've been texting back and forth. She's an amazing supporter of mine. I'm so grateful to have her. She really does inspire me, and she's so sweet and so loving. But she had texted me saying that she had a dream of Sansanim, and she wanted to share that dream with all of you. So she actually recorded a voice memo for us, which I'm so grateful to have her here. She was a little shy because, of course, English is not her first language, so she was very hesitant with me and almost apologetic, saying, oh, sorry for my memo. But honestly, I think she did an amazing and really great job. So I hope that everyone can also leave really loving and encouraging comments to Ina, as at this time I'll go ahead and play her wonderful, really incredible and inspiring Sansanim stream. So we'll go ahead and listen to that now.
Hello, my dearest, darling, and sweet brides of Lord. I will share one of my dreams with you today. I was inspired by Rachel and Pastor Sky to share it. Yes, I received this dream long time ago, in 2015. And I must share, like Pastor Sky was encouraging so many times in his podcast, that we can share any realizations, dreams, anything what God will put in our hearts. And I must share what I did not because of different stresses in my life, which happened. And still we have a different level of stresses and my family. But I will try my best to share everything what I wrote down for all this years since I'm in PROVI. So this dream I received almost right away after my passing ceremony, which I had in 2015 on April 12th. But this dearest dream I received from God on April 30th, 2015. So thank you again for dearest Rachel, who very kindly and lovingly inspired me to share what God gave to me 10 years ago. So when I will be inspired again, I will share other dreams and realizations, but not today. Today will be, like I said, my first dream from Sansanim and about Sansanim. So it's beginning like that. My teacher Sansanim visited my family in Moldova, my parents and my 2 brothers. And Moldova, it's where I came from. I was born and raised in Moldova, who don't know. So in my dream, my dearest parents, Papa Vasily and Mama Anna, and my 2 dearest brothers, Gennady and Dmitry, and myself, we went there when teacher came to our house of my childhood. We sat down to have a lunch in front of our yard. I wanna say a little bit about my parents. They very hospitable. Very, very hospitable. Doesn't matter what kind of person doesn't matter from what level of society a person will come or visit our home. They will provide, first of all, food and drink. And doesn't matter what time of the day, even though those people will visit us. They very hospitable. They very loving people. They love people, I want to say. And they will help anytime they will ask for help. So that's what my beloved, both of them parents, like, nobody have like that parents, just me, I think. The best parents ever and the best brothers ever I have. So, I'm sorry for my emotions. I just I lost my parents, so I miss them so much. They both passed away. Thank you, God, I have my brothers and they got married. They have their wives and their kids, and all of them love God and serving God, which is very important to me. So, like was having with beloved Sansinim lunch, all my family and all of us, we had lunch in front of yard. So suddenly, I'm back to my dream. Suddenly, we found ourselves in a large building. There were long hallways, and those hallways wasn't anything extra, just clear carpet, nothing else, no furniture, nothing else, just clear. The teacher, Sansinim, noticed that in one corner of the hallway, he noticed a gigantic insect. Insect looked like a centipede. It was long and had many legs. Like we say in Moldova, 40 legs had, probably more than 40. And that insect looked like in the movies I saw. In real life doesn't exist like that large insect. Exists centipede, but not that large. It was scary. Just look at that insect. So teacher chased this insect behind. Doesn't have at all. I didn't feel that Sansinim had fear. He just ran behind that insect who was running very fast. Me and my family were chasing too for this terrible insect behind Sansinim. Sansinim was first and all of us was behind Sansinim. Come on a second. So that insect was running from that building and entering my childhood house. So insect buried itself. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, I missed that one sentence. We pursued this large insect until it has run in the garden of my childhood house. Insect buried itself quickly under the ground of our garden. The teacher, Sansinim, offered to dig a few holes and throw away their inside explosives. Teacher and my dad have dug 2 pits and rushed there or throw away their explosives. My family and I ran to the pits, curious curious to see what happens with a large insect. What happened? I ran very close to the teacher, and I noticed that his right leg was in a hole with explosives. Under his foot it was also the terrible insect. The teacher sensing him shouted, all of you, run away, because here now would be a blast. Dad shouted at me at the same time, Ina, run to the birch tree. I was running towards the master sensing. He wanted he waved to me with his hand. Go back. I wanted to help the teacher, but the explosion badly scared me when I was running towards the teacher. I turned sharply fast and ran to the birch tree. I was running and I saw at the same time around me smoke, earth dust, stones in the air. My hair were scattered in the air too. The explosion stunned me. I have not seen anyone else except the birch tree to which I was running. When I turned my head back, I saw a picture in front of me and exploded on second pit from my teacher, which was near my dad, but not the pit which he stepped his foot. The teacher was still standing with his foot in a hole. Dad was on the right side close to me, my mom and my brothers on the left side of me. The teacher and I were in the middle of the circle of the event. No one moved. Everyone was stunned by explosion. My gaze was on the teacher sensing him and his on me. Then I woke up. That's all my dream. What I realized from this dream, I realized that my teacher or our teacher sensing him, he saved myself and my family from Satan, which I understand it was gigantic insect. And in real life also, he saved my spirit and my family spirits too, because he loving us so much. It's so sweet in my heart to think how Sensinim love strong. It's so strong, so pure, so naive. Even I can say even like that. He's like God, unconditionally love me and my family. Also, I want to add here that Dad always was for me when he was alive, and even he after he passed away, he all the time in my mind and my heart, he was for me a hero, and he will remain forever for me hero. So that love which I had and I'm having for my dad, I have for my son Sinim. Since I find out about him, when I accept him like my second savior after Jesus, since then I love him, and he's my hero forever and ever will be. So this Sinim and my dad, they very dearest to me. They my hero forever will be. I repeat myself. Very good example, and everything my dad was, and my Sinim, I put all the time these two dearest people on like a like the best example in everything, in physical life and spiritual life. Honestly, my dad, I can't tell that he was very good example for spiritual life, because he didn't go to one church. He never, to none of them, none. But he somehow loved God. He loves people. He was very good to people. I can keep going for can be a long list of positive what my dad had. Just unusual person. And say mama. I just had the best parents ever in my life. So of course I see him. He the best example for me for spiritual life and for physical life. So that's what I want to share. Just absolutely, I'm very grateful to Trinity for my son Sinim, who my Chris introduced him to me and introduced other brides to me. I'm very happy that I become a bride. And I will be forever and ever in Golden City with all of you. And make me very happy that I never ever will separate with none of you. And I believe my parents will be, I hope, in Golden City, but if not, in paradise, and this make me happy also. Thank you for everything. I'm so sorry, probably I'm not the best storyteller or dream teller. And I'm sorry for my emotions. I can hide them. I practice not to have these tears, but before I wanna say this or record it, but still, please forgive me. I love you, all of you. Have a blessed day. And goodbye till the next time.
Soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.